I honestly cannot believe that these fall patterns are being released right now from the Big Five company because it feels like summer just started. Like it was just May, but in reality, it's almost August. So I guess this is the time that these patterns should be dropping. I just feel like I have so many things for summer that I still want to do, and so many sewing projects for summer that I haven't quite gotten to yet. Now, thankfully for me, I live in the southern US, so it will be hot here well into October, maybe even November. We've had some really hot Halloweens in the past, so I still probably have plenty of time, but that doesn't mean that the fall patterns have not dropped because they have. So let's just go ahead and jump right into those.
Hi, I'm Tiffany of Tip Stitched, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where we discuss all things sewing and DIY.
First up, we are going to look at this button-up mini dress, which is McCall's 8601. This is basically just a shirt dress. It has a notch lapel. It has a button front. It has some seaming in the front and the back that has some additional top stitching detail. And then view A has these rivets, studs, and grommets on them, whereas view B lacks those. Essentially, other than that, they're the same. And then view C calls for snaps instead of buttons. That's really the only difference there. But let's take a look here on the model. You can see that there's this detail on both chest pieces, on the bottom and on the sleeve here, of rivets, studs, and grommets. I don't know that this really constitutes a different view in my opinion, but it does to them, so we're gonna let them have it. You can see here, this is just if it would be without those details, and then view C is snaps, although this still looks like buttons and buttonholes. That's what it says on the back of the pattern envelope. We'll look at it in a second. Overall, I think the dress is really cute. I like that it has all the seaming details on the front because that can make a nice fit and flare look here in the waist. This top stitching would also be somewhat annoying to do, but really does make the dress pop, and that's just because I'm not the straightest top stitcher. But this, I think, is a really cute look. I like that they use like the denim buttons here that you traditionally see on jeans or overalls or something. So I do think that this is very cute. You have a two-piece sleeve, so you're going to have a nice, well-fitting sleeve. We can look at the line drawings just to, again, see the difference. Basically, what I said before, grommets, no grommets, and snaps, but they all have that notch lapel, the two-piece, they all hit like at above the knee, mid-thigh, midi length. You're going to have this seaming in the front and the back that really gives you the ability to make it fit exactly how you want it to fit on your body. And then, of course, the center back seam. So, very cute dress. They are doing something new, I think, here with the Big Five in this pattern release at least. They are showing us what fabrics were used, and they're saying that the fabric in the photo was an 8-ounce denim in indigo. So for those of you who are mourning the loss of your Joannes, I think that adding this detail of what specific fabric they used will help you have confidence when ordering fabric potentially online to use to make these items. And so I think that was a really smart thing for them to do here. They also give you some other fabric suggestions saying cotton blends, denim, twill, wool blends, and faux leather would of course be interesting. This does require lining fabric and some interfacing. Let's take a look at the back of the pattern envelope here. You can see that it's pretty good on yardage. You're looking at about, well, probably under 3 yards because I'm assuming you're going to use something that's 60-inch wide, and then about the same for the lining. This does go up to a size 24, so you have 6 to 14 and then 16 to 24 for the pattern envelope sizes. And right here is where you can see that view C calls for 14 snaps, whereas view A and view B call for 14 buttons. So that's just the difference in view C there. So overall, I think this is a really cute dress. I'm not sure that I need it because I have a lot of shirt dresses or button-up front dresses, but I do think that this is very cute. And I do like the length because I like a short dress, and this definitely seems appropriate for fall. Next up, we have another dress that is a mini length and has long sleeves, but this is a totally different look on McCall's 8602. This is going to be a baby style dress, which is flirty and light and fun. They let us know right here that it is made out of a crepe de chine. So basically any lightweight fabric. They also recommend a challis, gauze, poplin, and it does need to be lined. Let's take a look at the line drawings on this one first, just to show you what the differences here are in the three views. And essentially, it's just that the sleeves are different. Everything is going to have like a sheared over bodice, a gathered skirt, the mini length, and long or 3/4 sleeves. But view A is going to have those sleeves with a hemband on the end. View B just lets those full sleeves just swing and be dramatic. And then view C takes that same sleeve and adds a ruffle to the end of it. Now let's go ahead and look at the pattern envelope. And we can see here that they use like this. They said it was a crepe de chine fabric here with a fun print on it. And there's some gathers here in the over bodice. This has the gather skirt. It has this tie detail on the front. And this is view B with just the loose sleeves. And we can see here basically what we saw on the line drawings, which is the same features, just the difference of the sleeves. Now you can see here on this view A that this tie in the front is actually functional. I'm thinking this tie on the bodice is really more just decorative, but this tie at the neck does allow you to open and close the neckline there. So that is nice. They also have a little bit of that peekaboo on the back of the dress here above where the center back zipper starts. So, that's a cute little touch. You can see here that this does use, in the largest size, 3.5. So you're looking at somewhere between 3 and 3.5 yards of fabric for this. It is available in an 8 to 16 and then an 18 to 26 on the pattern envelope. You can see all your finished measurements here. We sort of already went over the suggested fabrics, and then you just need an invisible zipper for the back. So I do think that this would be cute for fall as the temps start to drop. You could probably even wear this over like leggings. So that would be an option as well. But in the right fabric, you could wear, because it's going to be a lighter fabric anywhere, you could actually wear this sort of to close out the summer. It would still be nice and cool and fun and breezy to wear. So I think this dress is cute too. I don't know that I need it, but it is super cute. McCall's 8603 is loose and light and floaty like the previous dress, but I can't say that I like this one nearly as much, and that's just because it's not my personal style. Here we have a looser fitting flowy dress that, just doesn't have a lot of detailing in it. You do have this tie at the back of the neckline here that does add a little bit of drama in the back. But you have raglan sleeves that go into a full sleeve with the hemband at the end. It's definitely a maxi length skirt, although view A does give you the option of the high-low, which could be quite cute. Let's look at it. Yeah, here you're going to have the high-low hem. You're going to have this mock neck, very full sleeves. Like I said, they're raglan sleeves. So it's a very full, dramatic kind of dress. You can see here on view C that you do have a tiered option, so it's still going to be that maxi length, but you're going to have the tiers versus view A, which just gathers from the neck and nowhere else. Now, because this is so drapey and flowy, you are going to be looking at a little bit more fabric usage here. Even in a 60-inch wide, you're looking at 4 to like 5.25 yards here. And this one is also available only in a smaller size range. So we're looking at sizes 4 through 12 and then 14 through 22. And I'm not really sure why that is. Maybe because something this light and flowy has so much ease in it. They wanted to offer it starting in smaller sizes, maybe. I'm not really sure. They let us know here that this is done in a challis, and this challis does feature a print. I would say this sort of looks like a paisley print, very sort of 70s looking to me. And I usually like things from that era, but I'm just not so sure about this one. They also recommend a charmeuse, crepe de chine, or gauze. So basically any lightweight, flowy, fluid, drapey fabric. And again, if we look at the line drawings, just to highlight the differences in the views, view A has the high-low hem, view B has the regular, hem, and then view C has the maxi hem as well, but in tiers. So if you, like a fuller dress, if you like to be more covered, for those who might want to be more modest, or you just really like this full loose feel, this could be a really good pattern for you, as I'm sure this is probably going to sew together very quickly and pretty simply. Up next is another dress, and I don't mind that because I love a good dress. And this is McCall's 8605. This is more of a semi-formal type of dress. And let's look at the line drawings first, because I really want to go into the differences of these views. So view A is going to have this off-the-shoulder feature. The dress does have bust darts and an invisible zipper in the back, as well as some darts on the back of the skirts for fitting. And then there's sort of a curvy hem to the dress and then a flared sort of godet from there, which is interesting. And then you also have that for view B and well, for view B, you have a very similar, but it's just going to be longer. And then view C, you have that same curved hemline, but the dress on the bottom is going to be a maxi and even across, which is actually no, on the model we have view B. So you can tell here that there's a little bit of sort of an uptick to this trumpet like silhouette. Same thing for view A, but that is going to be a little bit shorter, hitting at a midi length here. I do like how it comes like straight across the shoulder. You have these very long lines. They added a belt here on this view on the model in particular. So you can see how this would lend itself to a semi-formal type of event. And this is going to be, I believe, a knit fabric. Let's take a look at the, yes. So we're looking at moderate stretched knits. They say jersey. Jersey seems like it would be too thin to me, but like a double knit, a ponte knit, a scuba knit, a Liverpool knit, although I don't know that Liverpool would look as dressy, but possibly a dress that is pretty sturdy, pretty moderate weight, and has great recovery would be good for this. You will need some elastic and an invisible zipper. And this is available from 4 to 12 and then 14 to 22. So again, I'm not really sure why the smaller sizes. You can see the finished garment measurements here if that appeals to you to know what size you may need. But I do like the overall styling of this dress. Again, not really sure that I need this type of dress. But I think that if you are looking for something formal, personally, I like knit formal dresses because I feel like you're still really comfortable in them when you wear them. They do say that the fabric in the photo is jersey, so I could be wrong there. And then, like I said, we already talked about some of the other options there. So this, I think, is a really cute dress if you need, a dress to go out. You don't need to be overly fancy, but you do need to add a little razzle dazzle. You could definitely dress this up with the shoes, jewelry, and purse that you're going to be taking. And, it gives that off the shoulder moment, which I'm usually a fan of. Our first non-dress pattern is 8606, which is a loose fitting button-up shirt. We're going to look at the line drawings first for this one as well because there are a little bit more differences in the details here. First up on view A, you're going to have a button front. You're going to have the large patch pockets on the chest. You're going to have a collar, like you would on any button-up shirt. And then you're going to have more of a drop shoulder with a short sleeve that has a pretty deep hem. This is more of a crop length or maybe like right at the waist. It's not really truly cropped. But view B is going to come all the way to the hip length, and you're going to have these added details of some purchased trim around the front and the hem of the sleeve and the shirt itself. And then view C has long sleeve, the same drop shoulder, but long sleeves with a cuff and a pleat and all that, as well as a curved shirt tail hem on the bottom. Now let's go ahead and take a look at it on the model here. They say that this fabric is distressed denim in blue. So if you take a look at this, I mean, it does look like distressed denim here. Let's go to the full view. And they're wearing this sort of as like an overshirt. This isn't like you're just necessarily going to button it up all the way. This might be worn over a tank or a little short sleeve shirt or something like that. And you can see here you have this distressed denim with the holes. Then you have this purchase trim that goes all around to add detail to the top. And this is the one that's going to hit more at like the hip length. This is view B. Now this is view A. It's going to be hitting right at the waist or the top of the hip. Again, very similar. And then view C has the longer sleeves and the shirt tail hem. This is one that I think could be one that you would wear over leggings or more as you could possibly wear it as a dress. I don't know how high this is really going to go up on the sides, but that could be possible. It reminds me of the shirt on Simplicity 9756, which I've made before, and that is actually long enough to be a dress. I never even lengthened the hem, but it was definitely long enough to be a dress. So yeah, this is a cute option if you want like a looser button up. If you did it in a heavier fabric, maybe this could even almost function as like a shacket. They suggest corduroy, cotton blends, denim, or twill. That you do need a little bit of interfacing. Of course, you need buttons or snaps. And then if you want to do view B, you need the trims. And this is available from a 6 to a 14 and then a 16 to a 24. You can see here that even the longest shirt only takes about a little more than 2.5 yards. But if you wear one of the smaller sizes, you can squeeze it out with just over a yard. it just sort of depends on the view. And, if you want to do 60-inch or 45-inch fabric, I'm usually using 60-inch fabric. So that's why I always quote those numbers. But, you can see everything right here on the back of the sleeve. You will need, quite a few buttons, 5, 7, or 13, depending on which view that you are doing. But, this doesn't, the view that appeals to me the most here are views A and view C. I actually do sort of like the cropped, although they don't have it on the model, so I don't know how cropped. The finished measurements are probably on the back of the envelope. But I think that could be cute. And then I like view C because I feel like I would probably wear it more like as a tunic or maybe even a dress. But I have Simplicity 9756 for that, so maybe I don't need it. Anyway, I do think could be cute depending on the fabric and how you style it. So this could be a good pick. It definitely sort of screams fall to me. Fall is the time to layer. So of course there have to be some jackets in this drop. And this 8607 is the first one that we're going to see here. And I have mixed feelings about this. I don't really like how they have it styled and on the model, but that's sort of the typical thing for me in the Big Five. So that's not really a surprise. It just looks like there's a lot of vacant space here up top. The elastic hem is sort of throwing me a longer length jacket. I would like that better on a crop length jacket, but it does have some interesting details here at the sleeve. We'll look at that a little bit more in the line drawings. But yeah, so here's one view, hits at the hip, long sleeves. I think these are cuffs and buttons on the back. We'll again look at the line drawings. And then this is actually, what is different about this view? Hold on. Okay, and then this view is different because it has these large patch pockets that have zippers. That feature I actually sort of like. I still don't know overall that I like the jacket, but it may work for you. I also don't see this whole outfit coming together in any way, shape, or form, but that's not my business. Okay, so here's the back detail here. So see how you have this additional detailing here in the jacket that wraps around from the front? That I do like. I don't know if that's a saddle sleeve. I don't really think so, but it's cute the way that it is here and highlighted with the top stitching, especially on the denim. And then you do have a cuff with 2 buttons here. So let's take a look, before we'll come back to this, let's take a look at the description. They call it a Blouson jacket. Of course, it has a collar, elastic hem, the patch pockets. I pointed all that out. Views A, oh, that was no, that's not the difference. Views A and B have a button up front, but the difference here is basically just that there's a contrast in the collar. I hardly think that's enough to make 2 different views. But again, you can see this detail here on the sleeve. It's almost like a saddle sleeve or a raglan, but not quite, because it doesn't look like that on the back. So I don't know what this kind of sleeve is called. If you know, let me know in the comments. But yeah, the difference really to me is more so between views B and view C, where you can see you have 2 very different styles of pockets, as well as the difference of the zipper versus the button. So this to me really only has 2 views. Just making the collar a contrast isn't enough to call it a separate view. For me personally, we can see here that this is a denim. They do not give us the weight of the denim this time. It just says denim in wash blue, and then also suggests corduroy, twill, gabardines. I guess medium weight denim is our definition here. And then you do need some interfacing. So it does give you some of the information there. Now, if we look at the back of the pattern envelope, we can see that it's available from an 8 to a 16, and then an 18 to a 26. And you can see, yep, exactly. Here it's just giving you this little bit for the contrast for the collar. But you can see the different fabric requirements here, as well as the finish measurements there. And then, buttons are what length zipper you need there. So I do think that this has potential. I just don't know how I feel about the elastic hem particularly, but that's just a me thing. I do really like the detail of the pockets on view C. I do think that's really interesting and would be fun to sort of sew. I've never done a pocket like that, but again, you'll let me know in the comments what you think about all of these. Don't let my personal opinion stop you. McCall's 8608 is an interesting skirt. It is a maxi length skirt that has some asymmetrical features and the ability to add some color blocking for interest. So here, we can actually, you know what? No, I was going to start with the envelope, but I lied. Let's start with the line art. Sorry, y'all. No, I like to start here. So view A, you have these asymmetrical pieces for the front that create an interesting hemline. Like, it's not solid. It's not quite handkerchief, although that's what they call it. I don't know what to call it. It's not ruffled either, but it's interesting. You do have a center back zip and you have darts, and this is a waistband free skirt. So you're probably just going to have hem tape or facing on the inside of it here. And then for view B is going to be exactly the same as view A, but with the contrasting panel feature. So you can, mix two colors, mix two prints. And then view C is very similar, except for the hem that has a little bit more of a curved like or petal like, I don't know, feature here to those pieces that are more jagged and straight on views A and view B. What does that look like on the model? Unfortunately, we're only going to see view A, but let's take a look at it. This is not the best print to me, although the shirt does match it, so that's good. We'll look and see exactly what they tell us this fabric is in a second, but it's definitely a very small print. And you can see here that you have this sort of disconnected hemline here. In this busy print, you can't quite see, even when we zoom in, this is almost like an animal print. You can't see the details of the seams here, which is why I sometimes wonder they pick the fabric that they pick for these patterns. But you can still see that the hemline is interesting here. However, if you did it in two different colors or two different prints, you could definitely see this seam here more. So you could really feature the highlight of the skirt. And then view C again is very similar, but you have more of a curved and not angular hem on the skirt. Here's the back view, that same detail, sort of this jagged feature is going to be on the front as well as the back. And then there will be a center back zipper here for the skirt. If we take a look at the back of the pattern envelope, it lets us know that this is suggested to be made out of like lightweight wovens with some drape. So challis, charmeuse, a cotton blend, or a crepe. You're going to need an invisible zipper, and they are using ribbon for the hemband of the waistband here. And this is available from a size 8 to 16, and then 18 to 26. You have your finished measurements and all that here. And of course, your fabric requirements, depending on what type of fabric you use there. They call view a handkerchief hem, like I said, and then they call view C a hem shaped variation. So I don't know what that means. And on the model, we are looking at a viscose crepe, viscose and rayon, same thing, in an olive animal print. So again, hopefully that helps you in knowing what type of fabric to order if this was a pattern that you were interested in making. And they also rate them all. I haven't always featured it, but this one is easy and it does look simple. So I could see this could be worn with sneakers. It could be worn with boots. So I could definitely see this going into the fall with a long sleeve tee like they have it styled here and maybe a jacket or a cardigan. We have another skirt in McCall's 8609, and I really think this skirt is cute. We're going to take a look at the details here, but basically it's almost a circle skirt. They call it a flared skirt, which I guess is true. And it has curved side pockets, which I think are really cute. A back zip, hook eye enclosure, and it's going to come in 3 lengths. One comes like right at the knee. View B is going to come below the knee or mid calf, and then view C is going to come right above the ankle, more like a T length, if you will. So we can see here on the model that it pairs nicely with boots. This is either a long sleeve tee or like a bodysuit. I think all 3 of these lengths work for fall. We typically think of shorter dresses, I think just for like spring and summer. But I think view A with a cute pattern legging and some boots or flats would be super cute for the fall. Same thing with view B would be great with tights and some flats. And then I think view C would also really work well with a nice boot. So we can see here on the model that you do have, well, you can barely see it, but there is a center front seam. You see this curved pocket detail on both sides. And if we scroll down, you can see that there is a pretty deep, come on computer, there's a pretty deep hemband, which if you're using a contrasting top stitch, would just really sort of add a peak of interest there at the hem of the skirt. I think that this looks really great on the denim with the contrasting top stitch, but I think it would work, in any fabric. And even if you used a matching thread, I just think that extra weight at the hem would just add some structure to the skirt. So this is the knee length. They are showing it here in a plaid because you could use like maybe a wool fabric for something like this. And then view B, they're showing it to you in a darker wash denim, again with the same top stitching, although view B doesn't have that deep hem band as you do on the Maxi. And then you can just see here on the model in the back, there is an invisible, zipper in the back, nothing too crazy there. We can see here on the back of the pattern envelope that this is available in a 6 to 14 and then a 16 to 24. The only thing that you really need here is a zipper and a hook and eye. They are saying linen blends, medium weight denim, twill, or wool blends. Like I said, this in a wool would be perfect for the fall leading into the winter. Your yardage varies greatly here because the 3 lengths are going to have drastically, different lengths. For view A, even in the larger size, because it's cut in 4 panels, you only need a little bit more than a yard of fabric, whereas view B and C are going to take, obviously a little bit more. But I think that all of these are reasonable and would work really nicely in any type of denim or twill or wool, maybe even a heavier suiting, something like that. I think that this is a really cute skirt that I might grab, although I might have something similar in my stash, because this actually makes me think about some other retro skirt patterns that the Big Five has released. I do like these curved pocket details, which are different than just like an inseam pocket that you typically see on a fuller skirt like this. It just gives you a little place to sort of play. And so I think that's really cute. And again, over leggings, stockings, tights, or, maybe layered with a long sleeve tee and a cardigan or a denim jacket, I could just really see this coming together for the fall. Our first coordinate set is this skirt set in 8610. And this is interesting because both the top and the skirt here feature like a scallop edge for the hem, which I do think is pretty interesting, if not possibly a bit too much. I think in my mind, maybe one or the other should have the scallop. Like if you're going to have scallop on the top, maybe a straight hem on the skirt or vice versa. But I think it works, especially if you're a person who's a little bit more over the top, I could definitely see this working. Views A and C are going to be solid, whereas views B and D feature contrasting colors in the panels that are used for the skirt here. I do have some thoughts on this that we're going to go over in just a second, but basically both are just sort of semi-fitted pieces. The top, just a scoop neck, a zip back. You're going to have a side zip on the skirt. Pretty simple. The detail here is all the seams and the paneling as well as the color blocking. So if we take a look at the details here, you can see everything that I said about views A and C, just basically scalloped hem, cute little set. View B is where the interesting things come in with the contrasting colored panels, as well as view D. So to me, my only issue is these don't quite line up, because you have the alternating, contrast main on the top, but then on the skirt, although it does alternate, your center is a solid color, whereas on your top, the center is breaking the line between the contrast. And that's because even though they both have 4 panels, technically the top is 4 panels, the bottom is 4 panels. The 4 panels on the skirt are 3 centered and then 2 half panels on the side, making the 4th panel. So to me, the contrast doesn't line up correctly. I would fix this by switching the panels on the top. I would make the panels on the top be main, contrast, main. So the 2 contrasting fabrics would be in the center, which I think would just, somehow be more symmetrical. Like I feel like the skirt is symmetrical, and this may be me being overly analytical about this, but it just makes more sense in my brain. And I would do the same thing for the back, even if I were to maybe alternate the colors. Maybe I do the contrast on the outside and the main on the inside. I'm not really sure. Either way, I would have to change this up for me personally to be able to wear it, but I definitely think the idea of this set is super cute. So now let's take a look at some more of the details on the model herself. I don't know if you can tell here because of how she's standing. The lines seem to match up, but that's because her body is twisted. So you still only have 4 panels on the top and like essentially 5 panels on the bottom. So though it almost looks like this white panel and this black panel line up, they really don't. It's just how she's standing. Anyway, here's a view of it in view A, the solid, and view C, the solid skirt. And then here's B and D together. Again, I think the concept of the outfit is really cute. It's different, it's fun, it's flirty. It seems more spring summer to me than fall, but I guess maybe that's why they paired it with the boots. Now, if we look at the details here on the back, you can see that this actually calls for stretch knits, which I didn't realize until I saw this myself. So it calls for a cotton knit, which I would think would be like an interlock, a jersey, or a ponte. I am partial to double knit, so I would probably do a ponte, a scuba, or a Liverpool, or some other kind of double knit. They tend to have like a stable stretch and great recovery, so that would just be me. You're also going to need some double fold bias tape as well as an invisible stipper for both the top and the skirt. And this is available in an 8 to 16 and then an 18 to 26. You can see all the finished measurements and fabric requirements here. So this could be interesting. This may even be something you can do with like some knit scraps. The options are definitely there. I do think it's also really cute in the solid form as well, views A and B. But I do think that the contrast does add maybe just a little bit more interest than the solid panels do. But either one of these would be cute. Again, my only thing would be how they have the contrast lined up and the fact that this looks more spring summer than fall to me. But yeah, depends on your climate, I guess. Super cute. I want to start by saying this pattern envelope sort of screams to me how styling matters more so than just the pattern itself. We'll go into all the details in a second. Let's just look at this first. You see on view AC on the right in the red pinstripe, which fabric I actually really love, looks a little bit more frumpy and almost pajama-like to me than view AB, and still a stripe sort of with a print on top pattern, but because she has it untucked, to me it has just a totally different look than it does on the photo on the left. And so this is sort of the point that I wanted to make about just like the styling. Even if the AC combination had the shirt pulled out a little bit, I think it would be a better look with a little puff, little French tuck maybe, but just tucked right all the way into your knee, to your like ankles, like Steven or Urkel. Like it's not a good look to me, but that doesn't have anything to do with how much I like or dislike the pattern. Let's look at some of the details. They say that this is a semi-fitted shirt pattern that has a front button opening. Now, I would say this doesn't seem semi-fitted to me. It looks a little bit more loose, but it does have a collar, drop shoulders. It's going to have a back yoke with a pleat, and then it does have chest pockets. And then the shorts and the pants are high rise, and they have a fly front zipper, a back welt pocket, and then a hem cuff, and the shorts have like a tie. We'll look into this as we look at the line drawings here. So yeah, you can definitely see it's just a button-up shirt. Going to have the back yoke as usual, as well as the pleat in the back for room. And then you're going to have a cuff with a single button. I would actually add at least one more, if not two more buttons. That's just me. And you have a large chest pocket here. And you definitely do have like a drop shoulder for a more relaxed fit in the top. Now, the way that they have it drawn definitely looks more semi-fitted, but on both models, it looks sort of loose to me. So I don't know what to do with that exactly. And if we look at the bottoms, you have view B has shorts, and this has like a fold over inside waistband, because there's no true waistband here. It's a pleated waistband. You have these inverted pleats for along the front and then just darts in the back. The difference in the shorts here is also that it adds a tie, which is just really sort of scrawny. I don't know how I feel about that. And button loops. I would maybe do, belt loops. I would probably do belt loops, but I don't think I would do this little tie. Anyway, there's a decent length on these shorts with a deep hem. And then same thing for the pants. You're going to have a nice full length, high waisted. I do like the high waist detail. I really don't know if I would want to add the belt loops or not. I think I like it both ways. And then you have the deep hem as well for view C. So these are the options that you have here. They tell us that the model in view AC, the red pinstripe, is a cotton poplin. And then views, they're both cotton poplin. They just have different print. I really love the red and white print of A and C because those are also colors that I really love. Why didn't y'all start with that one? Here we go. I guess that's more of a burgundy, not really red. But either way, I think it's cute. I like the high-waisted detail on the pants. I like the inverted pleats. I just don't see why she has her shirt tucked in so. And if you can tell here on her wrist or over her head, so these are very elongated sleeves, right? That's why they don't truly have the extra buttons on the cuff, because they sort of wanted to create this shape. I don't know that I'm a fan of that. So I would either shorten the cuff and have 2 buttons, or I would keep the cuff longer, do 3 or 4 buttons, and then do it more pushed up on my arm. But that's just me. Again, that's where styling comes into play. And then I do like how they switch this pocket on the bias so that you have these diagonal stripes. Now, truth be told, I love a stripe, but this is a lot of stripes altogether. But, you know, it's okay. I think my biggest problem is how she has it tucked in. Now let's go back to view B and D. Okay, so if we look here at view B and D, you do see that little tiny strap that they want you to sew and add, which isn't bad. It just isn't great to me. You can see the same thing here on the wrist where it sort of funnels out towards the hand. I'm not a fan of that, but I can see it as a design choice. I would probably just add more buttons. That's how you would fix that if you're like me and you don't like it. But see how this is more, I don't know, this is a more casual kind of feel. I do absolutely love how they added the diagonal on the hemband here. Again, Chef Kiss, that looks great. I don't know if this piece is told like on the pattern directions to cut on the bias or not, but I definitely like how that's working. It looks like maybe the pocket here is cut on the bias as well. So maybe it actually tells you that in the pattern layout. I'm not sure, but I like this pulled together. This actually reminds me of Simplicity 9756. Let me pull it up on the screen so you can see them together. This reminds me of Simplicity 9756, but with shorts, which I've done with Simplicity 976. I just shortened the inseam, but this gives me sort of the same vibe, but I'm not mad at it because I really do love that vibe. So anyway, if we go back to looking at these, you can see that you can do it in a solid color. You know, they chose 2 prints, but a solid would also be fun and perfectly fine. Closer view of the shorts, closer view of the pants. And then again, on the models, you can see where you're looking at. Now, see here, the hemband isn't on the bias. See how that's straight there? This is a straight hem. So I don't know. I don't know if that was what the pattern testers did for Simplicity or who knows. Anyway, this is a cute, like oversized button-up shirt. I'm a fan of it. A lot of time with button-up shirts or shirt dresses, I have the problems of them being too tight on my biceps. So I do sort of like the drop shoulder, and I think the slightly looser fit. They tell you that the suggested fabrics here are cotton blends, lawn, poplin, shirting, and vertical stripes. That's not a type of fabric, so I don't know why they list that like that, but whatever. You're also obviously going to need a bunch of buttons, a zipper for the fly of the shorts or the pants, and some interfacing. This is more size inclusive, and then the fact that it's, well, I don't know, are they really more size inclusive? Because they're the same number of sizes. They just change the rain all the time. I don't know why. Anyway, so it's available from a 10 to an 18 and then a 20 women's to a 28 women's. You can see all the fabric and stuff here. But I do think that this is a cute set. I definitely like this set and would consider getting it, even though I do love Simplicity 9756 so much, because I do like the details of the pleats in this high-waisted short and pant. Although at this time in my life, I'm all about an elastic waist. But I really do like this too. So I could see myself grabbing this one when they go on sale. Here we have another 2-piece set. This is another top and shirt or pants set. And this one is a little interesting, but I can't really say that I like it. You can see here, they're going to show us all views. So views A and B are the tops. They have this sort of like crisscross feature here in the front that then closes with ties. You can see on both views. They have a deep V neckline with sort of like a lapel on the collar. And then you have the option of the short sleeve or the long sleeve. And as far as the pants, I actually think you can see that better on the line drawing when we go look at those. Actually, let's just go look at it now. So here you can see on the line drawing, again, the things that I was saying about views A's and B for the 2 tops. You're going to have the deep V-neck, the short sleeve, the dolman sleeve. You have an interesting feature here that there are back pleats, but they're really far apart and not close together in the center like you usually see. I don't know exactly where these ties are hitting, but it looks like a sort of like a crossover feature here on the top, like one piece is in front and then that piece is in the back for the next piece, which is interesting. I just can't say that I like it. And then for view C and D, you're going to have a pull-on short or pant that have angled side pockets and a ruffle detail that I think you make with the fabric itself. And I do like that detail. This is one of those patterns where I like the pants idea. I'm just not a fan of the top. And I can honestly just take the feature that I like the most about the pants and apply to any pattern, especially if they have that same angled pocket. So let's take a look at it on the model a little bit closer here. You see in this light sort of weight woven fabric that they have these two front ties with the short sleeves and the drop shoulders. And you can see a little bit of that ruffle detail here on the pant and pocket here where her hand is. Here it is in the other two views with the long sleeve and the shorts. And then here are the illustrations for each one of these. Again, I think the ruffle detail is really cute. Here you can see it a tad bit better on the model as it goes all the way down the outer seam of the leg, which I do think is a cute feature. And then again here on the shorts. I think that this is one of those two-piece sets that could be worn as an outfit to, wear outside or as like sort of an elevated pajama. I could definitely see it being both. This is available in an extra small to an extra large, and then again from a 1X to a 5X, which I think is great. They're going all the way out to a 62-inch hip, so thank you for that. And then it starts as small as, a 31-inch hip. So this is the kind of range that I think most of us want from the Big Five. This would be really great. They suggest challis, cotton blend, or lawn. I think it could also work for shirtings and poplins. I think it could also work for satin if you're going for a dressier look. Crepe. I think any lightweight woven with a little bit of drape would probably work really well for this. And you don't even need the drape because they're actually saying cotton blends. It just depends on the style that you want this to be. So I do think that this is interesting. I really like the feature on the pants and the shorts, but this just isn't a pattern for me because I don't quite get the top. But definitely different and unique. So I think that's great. Now, the previous pattern I think could be used as a sleep set, but I definitely think 8613 should be considered a sleep set. Again, we have a button-up shirt, but we also have here a bralette and like a sleep short. So I think this is cute and interesting because this is a woven bralette for view A. Let's take a look at it here. It's giving you, a little gathered action here in the front with a little bit of ruffle on the strappy sleeves. Of course, it's going to be cropped because it's a bralette. And then in view B, you have a button-up shirt. There are a lot of them in this drop that has some trim detail at the pocket and the sleeve and the hem. View A also features this like lace detail at the neck and the hem of the shirt as well. So that sort of ties those two pieces together. And then view C is a pull-on elastic weight short that has the same feature of the lace trim around the pocket and the hem leg openings. So we can take a look at it on the model here. And I do think this is sort of cute that they did it in a gingham. It's just, sort of cute and girly. Again, maybe a little bit more spring, summer, but you're just wearing it to bed and you control the temperature in your own house. So I guess it don't really matter. You can see here, view A, it's cropped. It's going to be a bralette. They do have the little ruffle detail on the sleeve, have a drawstring on the shorts, as well as the lace detail there. But then you also have the button-up shirt option of view B. So I think that all of that works quite nicely together. The gingham is just sort of very classic. It adds an interesting little detail. And I could definitely see this as being like a cute pajama set to wear around the house or, to sew for maybe not the bralette, but the top for the holidays. And I think it could be really cute. And you could do a lot of different fabric options here, I think, as well. It just gives you a little bit of variety, a little fun. Sometimes you want to be cute even though you're in the house, and this could give you that little extra femininity. I could see that. So if we take a look at the details here on the pattern envelope, you see that this is available from an extra small to an extra, extra large. Now, again, why can't we just get an extra small to an extra large and then a 1X to a 5X like the previous pattern? I don't know. It's not that hard to expand the sizes of elastic waist shorts or a button-up shirt or a bralette. I just don't get why we have such varied sizing here. But regardless, it calls for shirting, lawn, cotton blends, voile. I could see this really in any woven, even a drapier woven if you really wanted to. But I think a nice crisp shirting or poplin or just 100% like broadcloth cotton would work really great for this because it's going to have a little bit more structure. You can see here the fabric requirements and the finished garment sizes and all that kind of stuff. But I think this could be a cute set if you are wanting to like dress up your lounge around the home attire. Again, it could be cute and a little corny for like a girls trip or something like that. I don't know. I could see it. It could work. Perfect for fall is a blazer. Blazers actually scream fall to me. a nice blazer over a lightweight sweater, a turtleneck paired with jeans or slacks, just and maybe some boots, just screams fall. Perfect. I usually am not a fan of unisex patterns, but I actually am a fan of unisex blazers because a blazer is something that I think can look really nice and stylish if it's oversized or looser fit. Now, I do love, don't get me wrong, I do love a nice tailored blazer, but I think an oversized blazer has its place as well. And so that could really work here. And then it would be great for a guy. So like it works either way. Here you see it on both a man and a woman, or more feminine and more masculine, however you want to look at it. So it can definitely work for either or neither, right? And they give you both views here because it's the same view. And these are probably wool. I think that's what it said on the previous screen. So definitely makes sense for a blazer and for layering. They have it over like a sweater turtleneck as well as like a button-up shirt. So like just classic, but blazer. I love it here in a brown houndstooth. That would be great. You're going to be single-breasted. You have flap welt pockets in the front. You're going to have some seaming in the front for some shaping because even though it's unisex, you want a little bit. I think that top welt pocket is a faux. You have a notch lapel collar. Just everything you really expect in a blazer is here. I'm sure this is a two-piece sleeve. Just, a very classic blazer. You have the angled vent in the back. It looks like there are 3 buttons on the cuff. They're not really functional, but they're decorative, so that's cute. You also have the option of doing a double vent on the back. We'll look at that at the line drawings. You also have those same 3 buttons there. If we take a look at the details here, because it is unisex, it is more generously sized. So you have like an extra small to an extra, extra large versus, like 4, 6, 8, 12. Because it's not going for that really fitted look or proportions. So they are saying that you could use a corduroy, linen blends for something a little bit lighter, twill, tweed, wool blends. And of course, this would be lined and you would need some interfacing, as well as the 2 larger buttons for the single-breasted closure in the front and the 3 or 6, 3 on each sleeve, for the smaller buttons on the sleeve. Now let's take a look at the line drawing so I can just show you that dart detail real quick. Again, you can see all the features here. This isn't like it's fully lined, it's partially lined. But anyway, view A has the single vent in the center seam, and then view B has the double vent on both of the side back seams. So that is the difference there between view A and view B. But overall, a very classic blazer pattern, and it's great that it could be used for either sex here. Here is another unisex pattern that I don't really mind because, again, you're going for an oversized button-up casual sort of jacket, shirt situation here. You do have 2 different views, which we will look at a little bit closer here. But basically, both of these are going to have a button-up front, patch pockets with a pleat and a flap, and a little bit of a Western detailing on the chest, and cuffs. So again, let's look at the line drawings. All right, view A, you can see, has these angled shoulder pieces that give it a little bit more of a Western flair. You're going to have the button flap pocket with like sort of the inverted pleat detail, as well as a single button cuff and placket, that you expect to have on a button-up shirt. And they all have a slightly curved hem here. And then view B is essentially the same, except for you lose those Western shoulder panel pieces and you add this asymmetrical buttoned flap detail, which is definitely different. Don't know that I like it, but it is different. And they're telling us that on the photo here, you have a pinwheel corduroy on view B, and then a classic Oxford on view A. So let's take a little bit closer look at that here. And if we zoom in a little bit here on view B, you could see that angled button placket sort of detail here. And both of them have their cuffs rolled up. He has his tucked in. Hers is hanging, out loose, untucked. So those are the differences there. But let's take a look at them, on the full outfit. So definitely great for layering. He is wearing his more as a shirt, whereas she's wearing hers more as a jacket. So it could definitely do either or. That is one of the perks of unisex. I don't really mind this unisex pattern either. This paisley is a bit much. I'm glad they picked what they picked for the actual models this time. But, It's all your style, whatever you like. Of course, you know, I love stuff in denim, so that's cute. This is it fully buttoned up on her if you want to look at it more as a shirt instead of a jacket there. And then again, this tan rusty orangey color, pumpkiny color works so great with the denim. Love it. So, you know, you can see that here as well. So these are your options. When it's untucked, you can see that curved like shirt tail hem is there. So yeah, this is sort of like tucked in and pulled out. So it just depends on, you know, how you want to wear a piece like this. Again, as it is unisex, we have more generous sizing. So you have extra small to extra, extra large instead of actual like numerical sizing here. They suggest chambray, corduroy, cotton blends, denim, linen blends, lightweight twill, micro suede. That would work. Or an Oxford. I've never actually heard of anything called Oxford, so someone tell me what that means. Anyway, yeah, so you have all that information here. I basically think this would work for any woven, well, any structured woven. So it just depends on what weight you want it, what your fall looks like, what seasonal, you know, feel you want to have, and whether you want to wear it more as a tucked in button up shirt, or if you want to wear it more as like a layering piece. That to me is the difference here. And I do think that the View B button placket is interesting. I don't know that I don't know that I want to wear it or not. I don't wear a lot of button up shirts, period. So maybe that's the problem. But y'all let me know what you think about the View B detail in the comments, because I'm just curious. I really sort of like this moment for the men's like pajamas, because I feel like you only get men's pajamas patterns when they're in like the family patterns that come around the holidays, like Halloween or Christmas or Father's Day or something like that. And this is knit casual loungewear pajamas for men, and they deserve that. Like, I think this is great. So you're going to have 4 views here, although I can't tell what the difference is the pants is yet, but we're going to take a look. First up, you are going to look at the 2 different shirt options. And view A is going to be basically a long sleeve tee. I mean, nothing too deep about it. It's basically just a long sleeve tee with a crew neck and a neckband. So that is what it is. And then view B is also pretty simple. It's going to just be a button up with a patch pocket and a collar and a lapel. For the sake of ease and because it's in a knit, I think I would probably like, if I was going to sew it for my husband, I think I would make view A. But I do like the look of the button up. So I don't know. I would have to consider it. Anyway. View C and D, now I do see what the difference is. It's just length. So you are going to have an elastic waistband with a drawstring, and I guess view C comes like right above the ankles, and view D is gonna like flood the floor a little bit. Yeah, view C is just a tiny bit cropped, which I don't know that most men like, but maybe. I don't know. Here you have it in a rib knit, which I think looks Here you have it in a rib knit, which I think looks really great. Actually, you can see sort of like the crew neck with the long sleeve shirt and the inseam pockets for the pants. So this would be great for just lounging around the house. But see how like that button up just gives the little something? I don't know. I feel like sewing a button up in a knit with a collar and all that might be a little annoying. But I do like the way it looks, so I might would consider it. And then here you just get a full length view of views A and C, I believe, and then views, nope, that's A and D. This is B and C. I think I got that right. Anyway, I like both sets, and in a weird way, they look very different just because the tops give a totally different feel to the pajama. I do like that, and I think that you could make this for yourself if, well, I shouldn't say yourself. I hope everyone's watching my videos. You could definitely, this is definitely unisex. They call it men's, but this is definitely unisex. So it's available in a small to extra, extra, extra large. So that's good to know. Something like this, you want a little bit of ease in anyway. They recommend bamboo knits, cotton knits, ITY. I don't know about ITY. Jersey, modals, rayon knits, and rib knits. I think the rib knit looks really great. I think that's probably my favorite personally. And I know that that's what one of the models has on. But it says, it says views A and D is a viscose knit, which is the ribbed one. And then views B and C is a washed modal spandex. So I think both of those look really nice. And I'm just happy that the men got a little bit of a shout out with a pajama pattern that isn't bundled with a whole family of patterns. All right, we know we are nearing the end of a pattern release video when we start getting to the retro or vintage patterns, and here we are. So McCall's 8620 is a vintage Laura Ashley pattern from the 80s. It actually says, no, that says since, from sometime in the 80s. And this is a blouse pattern. Now, as you might expect, I'm not a huge fan of this. It's just not my personal, style. However, this is an interesting vintage pattern that does have three distinct views, which I do really appreciate, right? Because I love multiple views in a pattern. So if we look at the line drawings, view A has a lot of detail with like the sleeves and all the trim on the long cuffs that go into a poofy, like bishop sleeve almost. And then you have this yoked piece that goes from the front around to the back, like a sort of front top placket or something that has all this lace trim detail, as well as like a Queen Elizabeth neck. Is that what that's called? Like the royal sort of neckline, the high neckline with the ruffle. I should have looked that up before I did this video, but I think y'all know what I mean. So this does actually have a lot of detail for like a button-up blouse. View B is the one that if I was going to sew one of these, I would sew it. I'm still not. But view B has the very intricate small pleats in the front, which also sort of make me think about medieval times or something, right? With a little bit of gather in the sleeve, but a much simpler sleeve in general, although it does feature buttons on the sleeve ends, even though they're actually not cuffs, they're just buttons. And then you're going to have like that poof in the sleeve head there. So that's interesting. And this one actually buttons in the back because you have all that pleating detail in the front. Again, you're still going to have a high neck, but even that high neck is going to feature pleats. And then on view C, you're going to still have a yoke, but now you have a curved yoke instead of the angular yoke from view A, which gives a totally different feel. It's more like a Peter Pan type of collar, especially with the added tie. Cute. You have a little bit of gathering there. And then these sleeves actually do sort of have a cuff, a little hemband with a button that sort of acts as a cuff here. But let's take a look at it on the models, because this actually does give us a reproduction print on real people, which we usually don't get. So let's look at them one by one. So this is view A. They did it in more like an eyelet fabric. Interesting. You have all this detail on these very high cuffs. You have the ruffle, and then you have this front yoke that's sort of angled, sort of Little House on the Prairie-ish, a very high neck, buttons up the front, and then you have this ruffle detail that frames the face. And then view B has the pleats here on the front as well as on the tunnel like neck here as well, funnel neck. And then you're going to have a little bit of gathering in the sleeve head here. And then, it's going to come on out to just like a fitted sleeve at the end. This actually gives me very much like if you were into American Dolls, and I had one growing up, if you're into American Dolls, this definitely looks like Samantha. Y'all know what I'm talking about? This looks like the outfit I think they have Samantha in. I'll try to pull it up and put an insert picture here. Okay. Then there's also view C, which has like this Peter Pan sort of doily detail on the front. And has the buttons that go up the back. Or the buttons that go up the front. Did they show us the buttons? Nope, they didn't show us the buttons back. Let's see if it comes up. Nope. Okay, so this is the back with the yoke. This is the back with the button up in the back. And then this is the back of the more Peter Pan collar, view C. So if we take a look at the details here, you can see this is available from a size 6 to 14. I know, it's almost humorous. I don't necessarily know that there'll be a lot of demand for this pattern, but if it was, very few people are going to be able to wear it, right? Because you're stopping at a 36-inch bust and a 28-inch waist, which God bless those of y'all who fit those measurements. I don't. This is recommended for cotton blends, crepe de chine, linen. They did it in obviously like an eyelet. So just like any cotton fabric, any light to medium weight fabric that has a little bit of structure to it would work fine for this. They even recommend a crepe, which don't typically have very much structure. So you could do, whatever you want with this. They say that the fabric in the photo for view A is a cotton eyelet, which is what I said. And then view B, they say is a printed gingham lawn. And view C is a floral lawn. And then they added the blue ribbon there. So, you have some options there with what you want to do with fabric. Again, if you're into this kind of style, I think this is perfect because you do get three very different shirt looks in one pattern envelope versus one pattern that sort of looks the same, just small detail differences. So I definitely think that would be great, but you first have to be in the style and then fit into the limiting sizing options here. So we have another vintage pattern. This one is from the 60s and it definitely looks more mod. 8621 is a shirt dress pattern, is what they're calling it, but it's sort of like a shirt dress meets a shift dress, if you want to call it that. Let's look at the line drawings, although we don't have real pictures for this one. What you're going to see here is they all have just like a collar band for the neck. You're going to have a center zip up the back. They're all going to have almost like a bishop sleeve with a cuff. View A does add a little bit of like lace ruffle to it. And it's going to have a button, because, it's a cuff. And then all of them are going to have like this bibbed yoke on the front. So view A has trimmed in ruffles. View B is just solid. And then view C is a contrast bib and collar band. So it can go all kinds of ways. You'll also notice that there is a bust dart coming from the sides. And then in the back, you're going to have shoulder darts for just a little bit more fitting. And this looks like it's probably not an invisible zip. It's probably a lap zip in the back, which is more true, I think, to the time. And although we don't have pictures here, let's go ahead and look at the illustrations. Again, you can see view A has the ruffle detail on the bib. View B is just a solid bib. And then view C is the contrast. View C is also a little shorter. It's more of a mini, whereas views A and B are more of like right above the knee. So yeah, this is going to be view A with the ruffle detail. They have it on with like a belt. And then view B is going to have a contrast collar band, but it's not going to have any contrast in the like yoke bib in the front. And then view C in this illustration actually looks the most mod to me. Looks very Brady Bunch-ish, I guess, with the contrast. So, those are the little subtle differences here. And this one does have a little bit better of a size range option. You can see that this is available from an 8 to a 16 and then an 18 to a 26. So why they couldn't have done that with the Laura Ashley blouse, I don't know, but whatever. So of course here you're going to need some buttons for the yoke bib. You're going to need a zipper for the back. They call for some bias tape, whether or not you want to add like a purchase belt, but you could also like make a quick tie belt, snatch that from some other pattern, or just, measure out a belt length. They're saying crepe, crinkle cottons, striped fabric, linen, piqué, silks, cottons, seersuckers, or synthetic mixtures. So I can only imagine they took that straight from the original pattern, because synthetic mixtures? You just mean polyester? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, this is pretty good on size range. So I do appreciate that. And though I don't know that I really want this dress, if I'm going to lean to a retro era, it's going to be more 60s, 70s, because I like sort of that mod feel. But again, that's totally a personal preference. It has nothing to do with what you want to do with this. They actually don't give us the kind of fabric that was used in the photo because there is no photo here. But, I think this is a cute dress that could be brought into the current times. But especially if this decade is your aesthetic, this makes total sense. We are already at our last pattern, which is 8622, and this is another vintage. This one comes straight from the 70s. Aha, no surprise. I like this one too. Don't know that I need it, but I do think it's cute. So again, we don't get any photos of this on real people, which I'll never understand, but whatever. This one is pulled out of the 70s. Again, you're going to get a button-up, sort of not cropped, but like hits right at your waist blouse, a halter top, and some high-waisted pants. All of which I think are cute, even though they definitely like they came from the 70s. So let's take a look at the line drawings first. For view A and view B, I don't really see any difference here, except for maybe some additional top stitching and stuff. But you're going to have a button-up top, but the top itself is gathered into like a hemband, which is just interesting on the top. But the 70s were a period of like tiny waist, so that makes sense. You have a collar here as well. You're going to have a little bit of gathering on the sleeve head. You're going to have a short sleeve and a patch pocket that has like a little flap on the top. And then for the halter top, you're going to have exactly that, a halter top. You're going to have a hemband for the underbust that ties in the back, little gathered cups, triangle-ish cups that get tied around the back of the neck as a halter. And then for the pants, you're going to have some flared pants with some darts in the back with a waistband that looks like it laps over and probably has a hook and eye on the back. Again, to me, very cute. But, if you don't like this decade, this is not going to appeal to you at all, of course. So let's look at it on the illustrations because we don't actually have, people here. So if we take a look, you can wear all three pieces of the set. The drawing in the red, you can see a little glimpse of the halter underneath the top. So I guess if you wanted to be a little bit more modest, you could take on and off the top. But it definitely looks like they're going to be high-waisted. The little halter top bralette, I do think is cute. And there's something about the hemband on the shirt that just really screams 70 to me. That's what really makes it seem like a reproduction to me. But it definitely could be cute. So I can see the appeal there. If we take a look here at the sizing, again, they've done better. They've gone from an 8 to a 16 and an 18 to a 26. So thank goodness for that. They recommend a challis, a chino, cotton blends, polyester, crepe back, satins, crepe, more gabardine, jersey. Jersey's an interesting choice. Basically, I think like any lightweight fabric with a little bit of drape, like I definitely think you can make it out of a shirting or a cotton. That would be fine. But if you used a crepe or something like that that had a little bit more drapey fluidness to it, I think would also work really well based on what I'm seeing here. You can see the finished measurements and the fabric requirements here as well. But as far as vintage or retro patterns go, I don't think that this was a bad one. This is one that would more so appeal to me. But again, it's all about what era in fashion history speaks to you. Of course, we don't get a fabric and photo here because there is no photo, but you do have a lot of fabric options. And I do think this could be cute. Although, again, the halter with the pants seems more summer than fall to me, but that's what I guess the little button-up top is for. And if that with the hemband isn't like your thing, I could definitely see just putting some other cropped button-up shirt on top of it, or just leaving the hemband off and seeing how that works. That's always an option. But for me, the 60s or 70s speak more to me, so I get this a little bit more than, say, the 80s pattern. But again, it's all about what speaks to you. So that is all for this pattern release. There are quite a few patterns in this drop, I feel. Of course, as usual, the only ones I skipped were the children's patterns, but I think that there is a variety here. I don't know if they were truly all modern silhouettes, but like this featured pattern here with the scallop top and skirt set, definitely a different twist on silhouettes we've seen in the past. So I think by and large, they hit the mark. I think that this was a varied release, let's say that. I do like quite a bit of the patterns. I don't know that I'm grabbing all of the ones I like, but that has more to do with how many patterns I already own. But I'm interested to know your thoughts. As always, tell me what you think about this release overall. Let me know which ones were your favorite. Let me know which ones you think absolutely missed the mark. Whatever comments you have, I always like to hash it out with you guys in the comments so we can chit and chat and go back and forth. And maybe y'all can put me on to something I didn't know. And hopefully you've taken something away from this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and happy sewing.